Hello, fellow cinema fiends. The absolute craziest thing happened to me just yesterday. I was actually cruising the channels on my television with no agenda whatsoever, and I can't remember the last time that happened. Streaming sort of gives us the opportunity to watch what we want when we want. And I was just looking for something to kill a little bit of time before my wife realized she hadn't given me any honeydews for that evening. That's when I landed on a movie with Robert Englund in a boat in a swamp hunting gators. And what better way to keep the missus clear of you than falling into 2006's Hatchet? Now, I may not have had any immediate plans at the time to review this movie, but it. Let's get messy today. So Hatchet is a film written and directed by Adam Green, and for anyone that may not know what that is, he's a pretty damn talented filmmaker who's a horror geek just like the rest of us, and in fact, he fronted his very own rock band way back in the day, which he named Haddonfield. And because of that keeps him in my cool book for the rest of forever. But on to this film, because the story exists in a world where Honey Island Swamp down in Louisiana is haunted by the ghost of a local legend named Victor Crowley. It's one of those word-of-mouth folk tales that bounce around town, but is serious enough that so many people have gone missing around those parts. The local law has shut down that section of the swamp to tourists, regulars, and especially those who would poach gators. So speaking of gator poachers, this is where we find our beloved Freddy Krueger, disguised of course as Robert Englund, with his son Ainsley in the middle of the night, in the middle of the swamp, arguing over where his kid can take a piss. Now, his name is Samson here. He's not Freddy, but he's still pretty good in the small role that he's got. They're hunting a massive alligator, but they end up finding a much scarier predator, and the cold open that these guys are in showed us everything that we were in for with this movie. The gore of it, the way that these two people met their end, it really set the tone for what the rest of the movie was going to be. And then we get the opening song by Marilyn Manson. You can say what you want about Marilyn Manson, but the guy put out a few songs that are really prevalent and have a place in horror movies. Sweet Dreams are one, obviously. This song is called New Shit, if I'm not mistaken. It just fit well because it takes you on this tour through the sewers before eventually coming up through a manhole, and boom, you're at a Mardi Gras celebration on Bourbon Street. All the partying, it looks fun, but it also looks pretty damn itchy too. Now, the group of 5 friends here, to be honest, they're pretty generic looking. I mean, one of them is Hatchet mastermind Adam Green, and then the other 2 we pretty much never see again in this film franchise. Ben and Marcus, though, are who we are going to focus on, and they're a fun pair of bickering buddies. Ben is bummed about a burn-up relationship back at home and is even sick of beer and boobs on Bourbon Street. Doesn't want anything to do with it anymore, which perplexes Marcus. He doesn't get it. That's all he wants to do. I mean, you're at Mardi Gras. What else is there to do? But because Marcus is a great friend, he decides he's going to stick with Ben on this weird quest of his to find a haunted swamp boat tour that another friend had told him a year prior was awesome to be on. Just excellent. Something you have to do when you're down there. And that's what brings us our Tony Todd cameo as the Reverend Zombie. So we've got Freddy Krueger on screen. We've got Candyman now. Very brief role, but he would play a bigger part in the sequels to come because you have to have sequels with any movie that even looks halfway good. Rest in peace to Tony Todd. So Reverend Zombie's not the guy doing the tour. We wind up with a different suspect tour guide that may or may not be posing as 3 or 4 different nationalities. They all load up on a bus, and we wind up with an adorable married couple, a pornographer with 2 girls going wild, and a quiet loner seated at the back of the bus. Now, Ben, to his credit, shoots his shot at her, but woof, this guy is not good at it. And of course, this gives Marcus more ammo to needle his friend about later on. The girl's name is Mary Beth Dunstan. She's actually hitching a ride here because she's worried about her father and her brother going missing just 2 nights prior. Of course, we know what came of them here, but here's Mary Beth coasting into the belly of the beast with a fun little crew of body fodder that has no idea what's in store for them. Then we have this tour guide, and he's not great at his job, which gets pointed out to him early and often, but he gives us some enjoyable banter between him and the others. And they even run into a guy while they're trying to get on the boat that drinks his own piss. Now, this guy has enough mental acumen to warn them about Victor Crowley, but he's still drinking his own urine. And this, of course, the guy playing this role is the director of Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. So for me, because of what happened with that film, he deserves a lot more than a warm cup of piss. Everything ramps up considerably when this boat that they're on winds up getting stuck. Now, there's a gator, and he takes a bite out of the lovable husband of the married couple. The girls gone wild hate each other. They're constantly arguing with one another. But the whole group find themselves directly in front of the Victor Crowley house after Mary Beth excellently retells the story of Victor Crowley. Victor Crowley was this deformed young man who lived out in the middle of nowhere with his dad. And every chance the kids around him could get, they would point, laugh, torment, tease. They weren't very kind to this kid, and the dad was very protective over him. And one night, I believe they put this on Halloween actually, the kids are throwing firecrackers at the Crowley house just so this kid comes outside so they can get a look at him. Well, one of the fireworks winds up starting a fire on the cabin walls. Victor's trapped. The dad comes home just in the nick of time. And because he can't get the door broke down, he winds up getting a hatchet and chopping at the door. But unfortunately, he winds up hitting his son in the face. And this is what kills Victor Crowley. The dad was upset, winds up dying of a broken heart as the story goes. And now Victor Crowley haunts Honey Island Swamp, constantly calling out for his father. Mary Beth does a really good job of telling the story. I think she's a really good character. And she says a couple of different times that once you've died a traumatic death like that, your soul gets stuck in that night, cursed to relive it over and over and over again, which is a twisted way to go out if you ask me. The sudden first appearance of Victor Crowley, though, was the tone setter for the rest of the film, as was the way he wound up killing this married couple. Now, we're not going to get into the brutality or the violence of it, but he uses all sorts of crazy different tools to take these poor folks out. I mean, he's got a grinder, a shovel. I think he uses the guy's own arms that he rips off. I mean, it's very insane the way that this character, Victor Crowley, stalks and kills people. Now, on the other hand, though, I also thought the guy took damage about as well as Ghostface did back in Woodsboro. I mean, he got shot, he got stabbed, he was set on fire, and every time it happened, it looked like he was down for the count. But because of what Mary Beth told us with the curse of him coming back to relive the night every single night, that would explain why they just can't do away with this crazed, deranged, just mangled human being, hell-bent on butchering these people in the nastiest ways. One thing this movie does, brutality, it just ramps it up. And it's about, I bet before Terrifier came along, this was as bloody as you would get in cinema. So let's go ahead and get the cons out of the way, because it's a lot more fun to talk about the pros anyways. And there's not a lot of cons in this movie for my money. I thought so anyways. One major issue I had was I wasn't thrilled that Victor Crowley was essentially an unmasked Jason Voorhees on meth. He was just a sped up version of that character. And they even pulled in the most famous Jason Voorhees actor to play not only Victor Crowley, but Victor Crowley's dad. They just swapped the mom storyline for the dad storyline. Minor gripes, that didn't sit well with me, but the rest of this was just good old-fashioned American horror. So the pros are a lot heavier here, and Mary Beth, played by Tamara Feldman, is sterling in this movie. She's absolutely awesome. She's believable, she's strong, and there's a lot of points in this film where she's keeping the fear, if that makes sense, in this group, this bickering group of people, because they stand around and they argue with each other like there's not somebody coming after them with a hatchet, and there's some controversy surrounding this actress regarding this franchise and this role, but we'll dip into that when we review the second film. There's a lot I have to say about that with the second movie. Speaking of the group, the bickering, argumentative, annoying characters, they're all pretty fun. They're all dumb. I mean, they're considerably stupid, but it's a horror movie, and that's a prereq. You have to have dumb people. And it's just kind of fun to hang with them until they're ripped to pieces. Ben is the goofy, apparent final guy. Marcus was funny. He made me laugh pretty steadily throughout this movie with his constant bitching about the boat tour, all before they even end up on Honey Island Swamp getting chased by a cursed, deformed killer. He was upset about it even before that. This is just a ham-handed horror film that ends in a way that'll start the second film off perfectly, I thought. Now, a lot of well-worn horror movie tropes were present here, but anytime you have the chance to introduce a character that could haunt audiences for decades to come, I think it's worth sitting up and taking notice of. For me, the movie's a 7.5 out of 10. I'm going to say it ages gracefully. I thought they did a lot of really good things here. And once you know what you're in for when you go to sit down to watch this, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. This is not going to win any Academy Awards. This is not going to be something that leaves a lasting social impression on you. You're not going to have any outlook on anything changed by watching Hatchet. You're just going to have fun with it. And that's what you want to do when you sit down with a slasher movie. You want to have a good time. That's going to wrap us up for Hatchet. This is Aging Gracefully. I am Matthew Essex. If you liked Hatchet, if you didn't like Hatchet, if you want to talk about this with me, I would love it if you would subscribe and stick around. I appreciate it. Click the like button. All those things that people ask you to do when you watch their videos, you should do that with these videos too. We're worth it. Until next time, we here will see you on the other side. Bye now.